Good afternoon, grasshoppers. I wanted to take an opportunity and just briefly go through chapter 5 for you. I think this chapter is very, very straightforward, and it stresses something that I adhere to of the critical importance of understanding American subcultures. If you're going to engage marketing, advertising, or product development for corporations as a profession, which I know that many of you will, you are going to want to make sure you have this particular chapter emblazoned on your forehead. The criticalness of understanding the nuances of a particular subculture, and even more importantly, in terms of specifically the Hispanic and Asian subculture, where there are multifaceted sub-dimensions of that. And your chapter does a good job of delineating what those are. You're going to need to be very sensitive to which of those subdivisions you're trying to market to, because uh, the Hispanics that are coming from South America will have a different desire, need, et cetera, than uh, than the Hispanics that are native to the American Southwest. Excuse me. So you're going to need to be sensitive to that. And one of the notions that your chapter brings out that I really liked, if you try to do the overall blanket promotion to the Hispanic culture, you're going to possibly alienate some of them, and so you need to be very sensitive to those nuances. And I think your chapter does a very good job of that. The definitive notions, American subcultures, is a segment of a larger culture whose members share distinguishing values and patterns of behavior. Pretty straightforward. And if you were to do a survey across the nation, you would see that uh, it's so true. From California to New York, the American subcultures are so disparate, and you're going to need to be sensitive to that. I like the example that the text gives on American subcultures as a salad. Used to be, the melting pot, used to be the soup and all that. And now they've changed that to a salad. And I think it's probably more appropriate because what we're noticing is that the subgroups are not divesting themselves of their traditional values, languages, religious beliefs, things of that nature. So they're remaining semi-autonomous even within the greater culture. And of course, we all understand that these subcultures do need to um, merge into the enculturation of the American culture. You just simply have to. You have to learn the language, and you need to learn the social political nuances that go on in this culture, et cetera, et cetera. But the uh, the notion is that they are remaining semi-autonomous, and that's very important for you to know that. Um, the on page 154, ethnic subcultures broadly as those whose members' unique shared behaviors are based on a common racial, language, or national background. One of the challenges is that the notion of ethnicity and race has become a problematic distinction in American culture, specifically among the Jewish community. For one can be a Jew ethnically and not necessarily religiously, or vice versa, for example. The the other groups don't have that much of a problem with that issue. Um, I'm thinking of the Hispanics and the Asian cultures as delineated in your text, where you have these vast array of subgroups within that subculture. And so language is a commonality, though it's differentiated among the different subgroups. But the religion is almost universal across the board. And in the Asians, you have, among the subgroups, you have probably a greater sense of conflict or animosity among some of the groups. What does this mean for you as a professional? It means that if you're going to market to one of those groups, you need to be very careful that in your advertising, you don't insult the other groups. Your chapter does bring that out, but I want to re-emphasize that for you. Especially if you're in a national program. If you're in a local, if you're in Grand Rapids and you're working for a radio station or the newspaper or an advertising agency, and you're doing local advertising, you're probably not going to have that much of a challenge there because the population here is fairly homogeneous. But if you get to other parts of the country, then heterogeneity is what you're confronted with. You just need to be sensitive to that. And on page 156 and 157, they give the ethnic subcultures and consumption and African American segments identified by Yankovic. And these are very good indexes for you to pay attention to. You want to make sure that you do that. They cover media usage here. We're all going to have the younger generation, i.e., you folks. Your media choices are very different than your parents, and so how are you going to advertise? A lot of folks today, younger folks, are focused on the internet, and the internet is one of the mediums that folks advertise on. But how specific is it? And television has become so challenged. I mean, you have 600 stations that you can choose from. How do you market with that? And radio is a challenge because of the limited cume or the demographic that they subscribe to. And even if you're WJR out of Detroit, which is 100 watt, one of the bigger stations, even WJR is having its challenges in terms of how do you market in terms of radio. And having done all three of those, I will share with you that each has its unique problems and its unique strengths and its unique challenges. So you're confronted with that. I like the notion on page 161 of acculturation, language, and generational influences. And of course, retailing on 160. As we probably all know, retail is just suffering at the moment. Now, is that going to come back? I I have a thought that it will. I do not think that retailing is going to go away. And I think it's going to afford you opportunities to help retailers rekindle their business and get folks wanting to come back into stores. It's very interesting now that what's going to happen with Amazon. We all know that Amazon is the big cheese in terms of sales and delivery and all of that sort of thing. But is that going to prevail? Is that going to stay that way? There are other mechanisms that are coming into play that are challenging Amazon. And one of those are some of the big retailers. They're starting to learn some of the tricks of marketing and merchandising that hopefully are going to sway some folks back into the retail venue. I genuinely can't find much that I need to reiterate for you here. The religious subcultures on page 173. When you get into the religious subcultures, you open up and you kick a hornet's nest. You just need to really be sensitive to that. It's very easy to insult particular groups that do not share religious viewpoints. So as a marketer, you need to be very sensitive to that. What I'd like to share with you is that as I worked my way again through the chapter and I thought about it, I went, the biggest thing I want you to be aware of is the importance of the subgroups of these subcultures. That is such a critical notion for you. And there are those advertisers, marketers, reps, whatever, who have literally lost jobs because of their not following some simple directions on dealing with some of these groups. Having said that, the assignments for you are in Connect, and you are doing a very, very good job. I have not made this overly difficult for you, and you are manifesting my confidence in you. So make sure that you're getting those done. Pay attention to the assignments. I am planning on being back in class a week from tomorrow. And we're going to just see how that goes. But I have every confidence that I'll do fine in there. I just have to be a little careful. And but I want to get back in front of you and and carry on. So we're doing chapter 5 this week, and we're doing the 15th. We're doing chapter 6. So you might want to make sure that you have at least read through that. And if you, once again, I haven't had any questions this week. Thank you very much. And for me personally, I'm recovering. I'm doing okay. Trust me, the last thing you ever want to go through is open heart surgery. So eat right. You're young, start eating right. And try to eliminate a lot of this junk food that young people have a tendency to eat. Because when you get to be my age and the cardiologist says, we got to open you up and fix that, you're going to wish you had taken my advice. With that in mind, I hope that you enjoy the football game today. And it's beautiful weather out there, a lot of snow, and which I, of course, am not shoveling. But it's just very nice out there. Cold. Let me see, it's 11 degrees right now. So enjoy the game, enjoy your day, enjoy your week. And I will genuinely look forward to seeing you folks next week. Bye now.